Hi Cancer, this is your forecast for the month of December 2018. This is a general reading for Cancer Sun, Cancer Rising, or Cancer Moon. For a more rounded overview, please watch your rising and moon sign as well. So Cancer, you're starting off the first week of December with a card that I absolutely hate, this Five of Swords. It's a very negative energy where maybe you're dealing with people who are troublemakers. There could be issues where somebody is gossiping or trying to undermine something that you're doing. And so you could find yourself in some kind of never-ending battle, a no-win situation, or somebody ends up coming out on top, but yet it doesn't feel very good. There's a competitive energy where somebody's maybe trying to get the last word, or they're not listening, or somebody wants to do things their own way. It's a card of being overly self-reliant. Something has to go your way at all costs. Now, for some of you, it's, somebody may be making a power play of some sort. They may be plotting against you. They may be saying some things, trying to smear your reputation. It could be some kind of sneak attack that you're not prepared for. So you're dealing with something where there could be some destructive behavior, some form of betrayal or revenge, or maybe somebody says something without being sensitive to other people. There's some tactlessness, some hostility that you're having to deal with. In some cases, to the extreme, this may be a loss through theft or your knowledge of some kind of criminal activity. So this is going to be a week where you're really going to have to be careful about boundary issues, yours versus others, and overstepping those. The good thing about this week, if there is any such thing, is that whatever is going on is going to be a motivating factor for you to do better. It's going to trigger you in some way where you begin to take some action that you should have taken a long time ago. And this is a week where things can go wrong when you become impatient, when you become too sure of yourself, arrogant, overconfident, and then you start taking some foolish risks. Now, for some of you, again, you're going to be motivated to move forward on something. There's something that you wanted to know, you were wondering about, something was hanging in the balance, there was a loose end. And this is a week because you're so frustrated, you're finally going to address that. You're going to move forward on something where you wanted to know where you stood, where the situation was, something you were worrying about. Because now you don't care. It's not that you don't care. You simply want to know where you stand. And even if it's bad news, you want somebody to tell you like it is, shoot it straight. So this is a week where you may be acting in your own interest, and that may be important. Being powerful in some way, or dealing with powerful people, coming up against power, or suddenly realizing that you need to put your fears aside, your doubt aside, and take some kind of action. So your self-esteem could be at play. Maybe there's some issues that came about where, some kind of humiliating or embarrassing situation that you have to address. It could be that, you allowed something to fall through the cracks, either a circumstance, or you weren't paying enough attention to a relationship that was important, or you weren't taking care of yourself, or you were taking your health for granted. And so this is a week where you're going to find out something or have to deal with something that may, damage your pride a little bit, rub your ego the wrong way. And it's a warning card always about taking risks with your physical safety, being careful of what you're doing, staying focused, being mindful so that you don't have an accident. If you've been ill, you may be dealing with some kind of side effect from medication. So be careful about, driving under the influence of a medication, or taking the right dosage. And in some cases, there could be an illness that you're dealing with, and you're trying to get to the root of it, and you don't really know what it is. You can't get that accurate diagnosis, or you can't find the proper treatment for whatever it is that you're suffering from. Again, be careful about getting distracted, because when this card shows up, you make errors, and they could be small things. You lose an important document, you misplace something, you lose your keys, you lock yourself out of the house, something where you're not paying attention, or you're not focused, or you do something inadvertently that creates some kind of misunderstanding or an accident. So this is about getting balanced, getting grounded, and again, in some cases, dealing with people who are problematic. You may regret something that you've done or said, or some kind of treachery is revealed, some dishonesty, and a situation could take a turn for the worse. Positively, maybe you get to clear up some misunderstandings through your frustration. You get cleared of some kind of wrongdoing. Maybe there's the end of some negative talk. So this is a week to be careful about the competition, that exclusive desire to win at all costs. Now, the second week, you have the Two of Cups, and by virtue of falling into this slot, this is a very important card, despite the fact that it's not a major. It is emphasized. There's a strong focus on your partnerships, contracts, agreements, particularly those who may have been problematic, or where there was some treachery involved in an agreement or a contract, or where you couldn't seem to get ahead or win, or somebody's pushing buttons. It could be that you're having difficulty either starting a connection or ending it in some way, or maybe there's difficulty in calling a truce to something. So this is a week that focuses on mutual exchanges. For some of you, again, this could be focused on illness. You may be going in circles with the doctor, or insurance, a medical agreement, a doctor visit. For others of you, this is about, trying to repair a relationship where somebody has overstepped boundaries. So it's about having that mutual love and respect, mutual exchanges. Some of you, maybe you're working on a business deal. You want to bring the end to some kind of hostility, perhaps. And maybe this means reconciling, again, calling a truce. Some of you are very focused on entering a contract or some kind of agreement. Whatever it is, your feelings are very much so involved, and they determine the course of where you're headed. Either you're going to align with someone and become an ally, be supportive of that person, or you're going to become an opponent, and one that is worthy of a challenge. So something is going to happen where you either feel greater loyalty to someone you're involved with, or you begin to feel suspicious or irritated with some connection that you have. Now, positively, you may be working to smooth over some differences. You're trying to look at something from the other person's vantage point, see it from their point of view, and it may tie to, you've been going in circles. You've been feeling nostalgic about a connection. Your memories are influencing you, some kind of past influence. You could even be, wallowing in the past. You may have difficulty moving on from a negative situation, particularly one where perhaps you feel like you've been wronged. In some cases, you are cutting off a tie. There's been some treachery or betrayal, and you want to end that relationship. Maybe the love is not returned to you, and so you're moving on, you're separating, you feel rejected. You may feel a sense of humiliation about that. It could be that you're withdrawing the love. You may decide, you're incompatible with one another, or you may be dealing with issues of infidelity, or somebody violated your trust, or they broke an agreement. There could be some resentment because something's not fair. It's not equitable. And so some of you may be dissolving a contract or an agreement. There's some division that you're dealing with. But again, this ties to your emotions. And you may feel a sense of negativity from those around you, people that you thought were in concert with you, people that you thought were on your team. You may feel like they're patronizing, condescending, they're working against you, they're only looking out for themselves. So you could feel irritated. You could feel like this was a happy relationship or a happy circumstance, but your input or that of someone else, through words or deeds or actions, begins to contaminate what could have been a happy situation, and now everybody feels uncomfortable. So this could be, some embarrassing situations where somebody blurts something out and it changes the whole tone of the ambiance. You could also be looking at relationships that were very valuable to you at one time, and now suddenly this is a person that is annoying. They're on your nerves. Maybe you're even questioning what you saw in this individual or this agreement or this arrangement. Now, the third week, you have this Ten of Swords. Now, again, for many of you, this is trying to go in circles with getting the right medication, recovering from some kind of illness. Maybe it involves back pain. It could be a serious illness or some kind of surgery. But there's some difficulty. Maybe you've been trying to get some answers or get the right treatment or find the right doctor. But this is a week where maybe you feel like you've just hit bottom. It could have been a loss. Maybe there was something you lost through some kind of agreement, a contract, or the end of a relationship due to some kind of treachery. So you may feel as if you're pinned to a circumstance. There's been some kind of ending. But that ending may very well be fortunate. It could be the end of a situation that needs to end, the end of a cycle. Or again, there could be some gossip. Somebody has betrayed you. You feel like you've been stabbed in the back, or people are gossiping behind your back. So you may feel a sense of personal defeat in some way. And you may need to consider whether it's time to let something go. You could be dealing with a divorce or financial hardship or bankruptcy. Or again, some kind of serious illness. You could be investigating, trying to figure out what's going on with yourself physically or someone close to you. Fortunately, it could be that the worst is over, though. Maybe you're in recovery mode. You form an agreement where there was something lacking before, some kind of misunderstanding, and now the problems have receded for you. It could be a new beginning. You're definitely ending a cycle, and maybe you survived a very negative situation. Some of you may be getting some news about something. It could be a death or someone sick. Maybe you read something in the obituary. Maybe you have a recurrence of some past situation that comes up. So for some of you, there's some drastic changes that have taken place, something that is very disruptive to your life. It could be that, you're just tired out. There's been some chronic, drawn-out situations that are now wearing on you physically. But you may very well be a survivor. The clouds could be clearing. You could be coming out on the other side. So this third week of December, it feels like either everything is happening or something is just not happening at all. Things are just not moving. And that may be why you're frustrated and incited to take some kind of action. You may feel like you're carrying the burden of a relationship, a partnership, like it's a heavy connection or it's weighing you down in some way, or maybe it's not in your best interest. And it's now even starting to affect you physically. But you have to remember again that you're on the edge of a precipice where the sun could be rising and success could be very well in your grasp, whether you've had a recent setback or loss or not. It depends on your perspective. Maybe you're taking on a victim mentality or you're dealing with someone who is. So getting your attitude back on track is key. And that means, paying attention to your responsibilities, your duties, the task at hand. Because what's happened is maybe you got a blow, a setback. but it's also giving you this opportunity to take a second look at something. You can now see something more clearly. You're looking at the cracks, the strengths, the flaws, where you need to change, and you see some things that you didn't see before that will allow you to take a better course of action. And in fact, you may turn this into more of a success than you had even anticipated. But this is a week where you're going to have to be a self-starter, a self-motivator, because it's going to be hard for you to redirect your ambition, to regain your sense of purpose, for you to be motivated, for you to know and remember why you're doing what you're doing. Perhaps something went wrong and you assumed that everything was over and lost, and to facilitate that, you start to close doors. You start to burn bridges. This is almost like, I'm going to get you before you get me, because something didn't go your way. But that's not the best attitude to take. This could be a week that focuses very much so on healing physically, emotionally, you being in alignment on the inside with external circumstances on the outside. Maybe that means taking a time out. Maybe it means taking better care of yourself, loving yourself, pampering yourself, looking after yourself physically and emotionally. Now, the last week you have the Hanged Man, which means that because this is a major, much of the events are perhaps out of your hands. They're spiritual in nature. There's a fated quality to something. And you're looking at, maybe something is in limbo. Again, you feel weighted down because nothing is moving forward the way you want to, no matter how much effort and energy you put toward that. Again, some of you are dealing with some form of deception. Maybe somebody has been selfish, or you've been deceived in some way. Others of you, this again has a spiritual quality to it. Maybe you're dealing with a spiritual person. Or for some of you, this is about a hospital patient, either you or someone connected to you. You may decide to withdraw from something, take a time out to gain your perspective about a partnership, contract, agreement, exchange that hasn't been working thus far. Maybe you've been a martyr for a cause and making all these sacrifices, and you haven't been getting anything out of it. You've been accommodating other people or defining yourself in other people's terms, what they wish, how they see you, how you should be, how you should live. And so you're looking at whether that's worth it. You may be changing your mind about something, or somebody's trying to change your mind. And in fact, this is a week where a new perspective is important. Maybe you need to take a situation and turn it on its end and see it differently. So this could be a week where you're taking your time about something by choice or not. Things have slowed down right now. You're in a testing period, perhaps. There's some lessons to be learned this week, and you may be gaining some enlightenment. You may be connecting to source to get that. Maybe you are spiritually attuned, and maybe this is coming about through some kind of negative situation or an ending for you. It's also a week where you may have to be flexible. You may have to adapt to other people. You may have to give up what you want for the greater good. So this is a week where if you were clinging to the past, you may need to break away and readjust. You're at a crossroads with regard to something. There could be some unexpected changes taking place with your career, your domestic situation. Maybe you're in opposition to somebody. Somebody's not going along with the program. So for some of you, it's going to be very important to remain objective, to maintain your composure in spite of challenging situations. How you view yourself, a circumstance, and whether you can be objective about that allows you the opportunity to gain through this experience. So for some of you, you are looking at things differently. And you're making peace with the past, what's gone on, so that you can reevaluate, perhaps changing course. You're looking at the future and seeing it more clearly now. But this is a week where you have to be patient, because again, you could be in limbo. So you're going to have to persevere to get motivated to be focused on your goals. In the positive, you're becoming more realistic in order to achieve those goals. In spite of troublemakers, problematic situations, challenges, even perhaps in the face of a serious illness or loss, your ability to maintain your composure, to be tranquil, is going to allow you to stand in spite of those setbacks or delays. And if somebody is trying to force your hand or push you to make an unnecessary sacrifice, they're playing a guilt card, you don't have to give in to that, especially if you've given your best, you've done your all. Now, again, though, this is about looking at self-sacrifice, where you're not really accomplishing anything and you're not proving anything by doing it. In fact, the reason that you're making these compromises are because you doubt yourself and your capabilities, and so you give in and follow what's easiest, what's familiar, that path of least resistance, even though it may not be good for you, it may not be the best situation. And for some of you, you start to hide your frustration and it creeps out somewhere else. That resentment grows and you end up, you know, maybe taking that out on people or circumstances that don't deserve it. So this is a week for you to have that fresh perspective, to look at something clearly. You can now see the flaws. You need to be more realistic, more practical. Because if not, every time you overlook something, some loose end, there's going to be something else that crops up. And, you know, you didn't take care of this, and so that ends up being problematic over here. So this is about going over everything with a fine-tooth comb, you know, looking at the flaws, addressing situations that you've been avoiding or putting off. And doing it for the right reasons. If you're making a sacrifice, it's necessary to achieve. You're not just, you know, being an enabler or a victim in some way. Because if you decide you're going to move in a better direction, but your head and your heart is not in the right place, very soon you're going to fall back on those old habits, self-defeating behavior, limiting attitudes. So again, this is about being objective in some way. For some of you, you know, negatively, you're looking at where you've been deceiving yourself. Could have been you've been too materialistic. You failed to follow your spiritual values. Or you didn't want to make the necessary sacrifices, and then it ended up creating a problem. For some of you, maybe this ties to a false sense of security. You made a bad investment. Maybe you made a poor financial decision. Maybe somebody stole from you, or there was a lack of follow-through or commitment. Somebody may not have applied themselves. So for some of you, you know, the effects of a situation are taking its toll. You may feel depressed. You may feel a sense of futility. You may feel apathetic about something, as if you're stuck. Some of you, maybe you're looking at where you're selling yourself out. You're selling your soul. And so, you know, your soul feels as if it's dying because you're presenting a false self to the world. So some of you, you're denying an important part of yourself. Again, for others of you, this is about treachery. There's been some kind of falsity in your situation, some selfishness. And, you know, you may have been trying to conform to somebody else's version of you, and you are bound by that. You have created a prison for yourself. For others of you, again, maybe there's some kind of criminal situation where there is actual imprisonment. Maybe you know, some of you feel stuck. There's somebody that's just hanging around, and you don't want them around you. So there are all manner of things to deal with this week that are spiritual in nature, where you're going to have to change your perspective and ride with the tide, roll with the punches, maintain your sense of serenity in order to get through. And it's likely that you're going to have a breakthrough. You're going to see things differently. Maybe you get suddenly inspired about a solution, or you gain an insight, or something that was stuck now is going to take off. It's going to move in a totally new direction. This could be an unexpected visitor or some unexpected news. So this is a week where you're going to have to maintain your composure and avoid any impulsiveness. Now, the underlying energy is the Emperor. For some of you, this is going to tie to perhaps an Aries person. If not, this is a strong male figure. Could be your father, your boss, could be the government, could be your landlord, somebody that has power and authority. And this could be a month that focuses on your own personal power, especially if you've been giving it away, making sacrifices, or being somebody else's version of you. This is about asserting yourself. So some of you, you're trying to establish something, some success, some respect, some stability. There's something that you want to create of permanence. You want to make your mark on the world. And you may be looking at your life and trying to, put it in order, gain some structure. And so in that process, you may become your own person. You're claiming your personal power. For others of you, you're dealing with the responsibility and demands of life or work. Maybe you've gotten a job promotion. You may be given more authority. Maybe you're overwhelmed by that. Maybe you've been trying to get a project off the ground or put something on some kind of foundation. For others of you, you're dealing with the consequences of choices. You're facing the music to that. So for some of you, there's a strong drive for achievement. For others of you, you're dealing with people that may be aggressive or domineering, or someone in power, somebody of authority, or you're having to be very forceful and direct about something, because this is going to be a month where control issues are important. You're feeling very emotional right now. Something is triggering you, and you're feeling very protective about you and yours, your sense of belonging, your sense of security. And you're going to want to know the truth about something. And again, it could be a frustrating circumstance that finally pushes you to dig and get the truth, where you stand with regard to something. So this is going to be a month where, whether you had planned on it or not, you're going to be speaking your truth. You're going to be a little bit more direct, more self-assertive, and you're going to have a lot of demands to contend with. You're taking on greater responsibility that may be draining for you mentally, physically. But you are willing to do whatever it takes. Maybe this has to do with some dream that you have, your aspirations, your ambitions. And it's going to be important that you contact your own inner source to receive guidance. This may come to you through your dreams. In some cases, though, you may feel betrayed in some way. It's going to be difficult for you to gain control. Perhaps you were tempted to push something. You were too aggressive. You wanted something to move faster than it should. And that hanged man said, well, this is just in limbo and you're going to have to accept it for now. So, by pushing too hard, you may actually create more problems. And it could be that you're so focused on getting what you want, or you feel so self-righteous about your stance, or so intense about what you need, what you want. And again, maybe you're using that Five of Swords negatively. It's your way or the highway, and you end up socially and emotionally isolated as a result. So this is about accepting what you are in control of, taking greater authority if need be, but also recognizing that there are certain things that are beyond your control. And until you grasp that, you're going to have a lot of inner turmoil that is eventually going to play out for you physically. This is also about using authority wisely. not being overbearing and domineering and petty and looking for the errors and failures and mistakes of others so that you can embarrass and humiliate other people by pointing them out, or making so many demands that they feel like they just want to give up. Or perhaps you're experiencing that for somebody. If this is the case, you're going to discover who is really holding the power. Do you really have all the control you think you do? Are you running the show the way you think? Or are you in danger of being humiliated, falling from grace, getting your ego punctured? So this is about your leadership and or dealing with people who are leaders, and perhaps in some cases where you've been unrealistic. It may center around your social standing, your career, parental responsibilities, and your belief systems, your understanding, your perspective. So you are seeking expansion in more realistic terms. And for some of you, the biggest changes are going to occur not all at once, but through these smaller events that trigger some overdue change and changes in your understanding of life. So your situation corresponds to your mindset, your moods, your self-expression. And it's going to tie to your sense of security, your stability, your creativity, your productivity. You have two major cards, the Hanged Man and the Emperor. And again, the keys are maintaining your composure and using your leadership skills to the best of your abilities. Something about your situation lacks stability. There's a lack of grounding. And again, it could be unrealistic, impracticality, some pie in the sky dreams or aspirations, or simply that the final details have not been worked out. So you could feel some kind of up and down with regard to a situation. It could be a cyclic issue, something that's recurring that is now going to require further thought. And in your circumstance, there's a possibility of losing control of your emotions. Your logic gets lost. You get tied up in the emotional self because there's some confusion in your circumstances. Now, there's still some clarity, but you're very close to losing it. Or you're dealing with somebody who may be overcome with emotions. Or maybe you're acting on your emotions. Some of you are getting some emotional messages, some psychic visions. But others of you are simply not wanting to face up to the harshness of a reality. Now, by the end of the month, you're trying to cut through these cloudy emotional issues. You're trying to make sense exactly of how you feel, perhaps how you feel about you versus who somebody wants you to be. And you're trying to feel okay with how you feel. And maybe you're doing this through therapy or counseling, or you're just talking through a situation to gain some clarity. You're trying to make sense of the past. It could be some projection going on. Somebody may be trying to make you take ownership of their emotional baggage, or somebody's trying to make you take ownership of your own baggage. In some cases, either you or someone else has the ability to step back, to think in cold, hard, practical terms when everyone else has allowed grief to overpower them. So in other cases, this is about somebody trying to separate and keep two lovers apart. Now, your challenge number is the number 2. And that challenge means you're going to be more active, busier. Your resolutions are going to take more time, and whatever's playing out is more significant to your future with regard to the number 2. So issues that center around opposition, duality, division, flux, change, choice is going to be very important for you this month. All right, Cancer, I hope you enjoyed this reading. Let me know with your comments, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also support me on Patreon, join me on my blog for daily posts, on Instagram, and over at Vimeo. And of course, you can always book a personal reading at thealchemistastrologer.com.